And they're just like, and it was like the song was hot, so I was like, I'd always that joke, I'd be like, that don't kill you. And they were like, no idea. I'm like, get involved with your kids, listen to their music, people, come on. Now, the biggest adversity of my life was when I was hit head-on by a drunk driver. You guys saw the pictures, right? Head-on by a drunk driver. I was clinically dead for 6 minutes. Came out of a coma. Doctor said I would never walk again. And I'll tell you, that's as difficult as it gets. That's as overwhelming as I could ever imagine. I'm not saying, I'm not saying my adversity is worse than yours or vice versa. Not at all. For me personally, though, that was the most unimaginable adversity or circumstance or challenge that I could ever, never in my wildest dreams, that I think that would happen to me. And I was faced with a choice of how to interpret it. Now, I could either interpret it as the worst thing that ever happened to me. I could play that victim card. I could interpret it as the one thing that was going to ruin my life. Definitely going to change my life, that was for sure. But how it changed my life depended on the interpretation that I gave it. And so I decided, number one, that I couldn't change it. Right? When adversity happens to you, can you change what already happened to you? So tell me this, does it do you any good? Does it benefit you or add value to your life or anyone else's life? Does it move you forward? Is there anything positive at all if you choose to feel bad about something that's already happened that you can't change? Is there anything positive about that? Yes or no? No. So the first step in being able to turn adversity into an advantage when it comes to interpreting it, number one, is you have to accept it. You have to accept, write this down, accept life before it happens. Accept life before it happens. Right back at you. Accept all the things you can't change. This is one of the most powerful lessons that I learned from my car accident. When I was sitting there in a bed, in pain, broken, couldn't move my arms, couldn't walk. My whole, you saw the pictures, my whole side was bloody, right? And at first I was like wishing, and I was like, how could this happen? This isn't fair. I don't deserve this, I'm a good person, right? All those thoughts, those are like the victim thoughts. They go through your head, right? Why is this happening to me? And I remembered something I learned in my Cutco training. Something my manager taught me. It's called the 5-minute rule. Anybody know the 5-minute rule? Yeah. It's okay to be negative, but only for what?
5 minutes.
Only for 5 minutes. Then what's the point? Right? You don't serve, you don't add value to your own life, you don't move yourself forward by focusing on the things that you can't change. So I'm telling you right now, adversity is inevitable. Accept life before it happens. Decide now that whenever something happens that I can't change, no matter how bad it is, even if it's as bad as the car accident, no matter how bad it is, I'm going to choose to accept it. In fact, my 3 magic words are, can't change it. Whenever I find myself stressed out over something, and I realize I can't change it, I say, can't change it, I take a deep breath, and I exhale all of the stress, all the fear, all the negative emotions, all the regret, all of it. In fact, one of my favorite stories to exercise this point is a few years ago, I bought my first house, 4 or 5 years ago. Bought my first house. And I had made myself a deal. I had been looking at an Infiniti G35 Coupe. That was like my dream car. Anybody else with me? Yeah. So the Infiniti G35 Coupe, right? The sports, this 2-door, 6-speed, right? That was like my dream car, right? Like maybe the Ferrari was like my major dream car, but like within the next, attainable few years was like the G35 Coupe. So this Infiniti luxury car was my dream car, and I really wanted it, and I kept thinking about it, and I was like, I gotta be smart. I gotta buy a house first, right? Gotta buy a house first. So I bought a house, I signed for my house, and then I was like, realtor, do you need me to finish the paperwork? Because I really need to go to the Infiniti dealership, right? And so I went to the Infiniti dealership and I picked out my car. Smart thing would probably be to wait a little bit. I just spent all this money on the house, but I'm like, I stuck to my guns, I held out. So I went and picked out my car. I said, I gotta go sell my Honda Prelude. Went and put my Prelude in the paper, and one day I was out doing demos, and this guy called me and said, I want to look at your Prelude. Had a little bit of time between demos, so I drove over to his house, 1999 Honda Prelude. He looked at it, he liked it, he said, I'm going to buy it. Let me call my credit union, I'll call you back later today and we'll work out the deal. So I get in my car, and I'm headed to my girlfriend's house, who's now my wife, my girlfriend at the time. And you know, when you're grateful for something, you're excited, you want to what? You want to tell somebody, right? You want to share it. So I was like, I got to share. So I went and got flowers. I was paying, I was sharing the love. I went and bought her flowers. I'm like, sweetie, I'm going to come by. And so I'm headed to her house. I'm about a mile away, less than that maybe. And I'm in my Prelude, and I'm just thinking, I'm on top of the world. I'm like, this guy's going to buy my car. I just got a new house. And I'm imagining myself in the Infinity, right? In the dream car. I'm like, and it's almost too good to be true. I'm like, dude, I can't believe I'm really going to be driving a G35. Pushing the whip, right? So, I look down at my schedule. I'm like, all right, I better check my appointment, just make sure I know where I'm going after I drop these flowers off. I'm doing about 50 miles an hour on Hal Avenue in Sacramento. And I'm looking at my directions, right? I told you, I'm accident prone when it comes to cars. And I look up, and there's a Toyota 4Runner at a dead stop, about 50 feet in front of me.
Thank you.
And at 50 miles an hour, I barely have time to get to the brake, and I just smash into the back of his car. And total the front of my car. I mean, literally, the hood was buckled, right? And I roll off the road into this gas station, and he rolls with me. He gets out of the car, this lady pulls in behind, she's like, I saw the whole thing, he wasn't even paying attention to you, Sorry, that was Jeff Gamboa's grandmother's accent. So, anyway, I call my girlfriend. I'm like, sweetie, you gotta come down here. I just got in an accident. She comes down. I get out, I exchange paperwork, right? He leaves. I get back in my car, and I'm putting myself back in the glove box, and she rolls up. My girlfriend rolls up. She's like, she gets out of her car, and she's walking around my car, looking at the damage, and she's like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And she's like, oh. And she goes up to me. I'm sitting in the car. And she comes up to the door and she goes, oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. You want to get your new car. And I go, isn't this crazy? Like, what are the odds that the day before I'm supposed to buy a brand new car, I wreck my car? And she goes, you sound like you're happy about it. I was like, what else am I going to be? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, I can't change it. Why choose to feel bad about it? It already sucks that I have to fix this, and that I'm not getting my new car. Why add negative emotions into the mix? And she goes, oh, is this what you mean by you accept life before it happens? I was like, that's exactly what I mean. Because I've been trying to explain this to her forever. And the reason I share this story with you is because this is the most powerful concept I learned from my accident, but it's hard to get. It's hard to understand because we're not wired that way. And nobody you know probably does that, right? But it's the most empowering way to live, where you accept all the things you can't change. You accept life before it happens. And when they happen, you go, this sucks, but you can't change it. Might as well smile the whole way. And you probably know somebody like that. They're the people but they're the people that they bug you because they're so happy, right? I'm that guy. You're like, dude, Hal's always so freaking positive. I just want to complain to him sometimes. He's always like, can't change it, right? Can't change it. I want you to say that with me. Can't change it. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Can't change it.
Next time you experience adversity that you can't change, what are you going to say?
Can't change it.
Can't change it. And then what are you going to do? Just smile. By the way, guess what? You don't realize how often you get upset over things you can't change. And until like tonight or tomorrow or on your flight back when your plane gets canceled, here's what's going to happen. Because this happened when I first taught this concept at the rep conference. I first taught the concept and I get all these emails like the next day. Right? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go to the airport. You're with a few of your friends. You're all got like the same flight. And the flight's going to get canceled. And like 2 out of the 3 of you are going to be like, this freaking sucks, dude. I got to get home. I got school tomorrow. I got a test. Right? All that you're going to be pissed off and complaining, creating all this emotional pain for yourself. And then one of you's going to be like, dude, don't you remember anything Hal said? You can't change it. Right? I tell you, it's going to happen.